Stay tuned and I'm going to show you how I mounted these pod lights by Diode Dynamics under my 23 F250. The idea for mounting these lights came from this opening right here on the sides of the hitch. This bar runs all the way through, and I measured the outside dimension, and I'm getting about 3 inches on this outside edge to this outside edge here, and about 2 11/16 on this interior dimension. So I sourced a cap that would fit inside that, and I could mount a Diode Dynamics SSC1 pod light. And I'll show you exactly how I cut out the cap. This is the style cap that I ordered, and I've already cut it out for the SSC1 pod lights to fit in there. But the outside dimension of this is 3 inches by 3 inches. And then inside here, you can see these fins, and that allows you to have a range of different sizes. So I'll have a link for this type of cap that will fit on the internal dimension of that hitch opening like I've got on mine. The other thing is, like I mentioned, I've already cut it out for the light. The light is pretty much exactly to the edges there. So you're going to have to be very careful when you make that cut. On mine, it kind of squared up where I'm just evenly cut there, if you could see, just right to the top, and it's got these little notches there. So you can't really cut it much further than that. Now I've already drilled out my holes, and I'm going to hold that in with stainless steel screws that I've already painted black like this. I can't get a nut on the back of this because it's kind of coming through this edge of this plastic. So I'm going to epoxy the back side of the screw just so it won't pull back through. Although it does hold tight enough in this plastic, I'd say we're maybe 1/8 of an inch to maybe 1/4 inch thick on the plastic where it's actually tightening into. I've got the light tightened into the cap here. You can see how it may look like it overhangs that edge just a little bit, and you may be able to research different caps than mine where the edge is more square. Mine is it's 3 inches here, but it kind of rounds in a little bit. But where they're going to be placed, for me, it's not that big of a difference. There's where the screw kind of comes through, how I was mentioning to you. Got to be real careful how you drill that out and how you cut out the hole. So in that area, I'm just going to cover the sides of this screw just to give it a little bit more support. And I'm going to be using this Gorilla Glue Ultimate, and it dries black. I did run some testing, and it doesn't stick as well to the plastic itself, but it does stick well to the screw. So that's just really helping to make sure the screw is not going to back out in any way. And I've already finished one on the passenger side, and it did hold very tight. I haven't tried to loosen the screw or anything. When you do run the screws in, don't over torque these though, because you will strip out through this plastic. I think it's a low density polyethylene, and it's feels more of a rubbery type feel. It's not like a hard plastic. I've applied the epoxy to both screws, and really you're just going to be covering up the silver parts of the threads anywhere you see that. This is only really just going to make sure the screws won't pull through or they won't come loose. Like I mentioned, it sticks to the plastic, but not as good as it does to the screw. Let that dry for about 24 hours before you put this into the spot on the back of the hitch. I've already got my wiring harness complete, and I found a factory hole in the top of that crossbar that I was able to pull the wire through and then run a jumper from this side over to the other side, because this pipe is hollow all the way through. So that way I didn't have to drill any holes, and that way when I put the caps on, it can seal this up without the wires being on the outside or having to come in through the side there. I did tie into this light circuit that I'd already done. If you hadn't seen that video, check out my 6-inch bar lights for the Diode Dynamics lights on the rear of this 23 F250. Now, these are working on reverse and on upfitter switch number 2. So for reverse signal, you're going to have to use a relay. Double check that video. I talk about how I wired that in. And then I can use upfitter switch number 2 to turn these on when I want to. So the same functionality I have here is going to work on these side lights. So when I go in reverse, these will come on. Or if I turn on upfitter switch number 2, these will come on. As with all of my wiring projects, I like to use this sheath style wiring. This is an 18 gauge, and I'll have links for that in the description if you're wanting to use something like this. So it's got its own sheathing over the top, and then it's also got 2 conductor wire in there, and they're also sheathed individually. And then I would always apply some type of nylon sleeving like this. I like the nylon sleeving better than, say, the convoluted sleeving. Doesn't make a lot of noise. It pulls through a little bit easier, and to me, has a little bit better protection. On the Diode Dynamics connector, you're going to be using the red and the black wire to power up that light. I mentioned in another video, I believe it's the blue wire that turns on the backlighting feature if it has that option. I ordered these in red just in case I wanted that backlight feature, but I'm not using the backlight feature in this application. But if you did want to use that feature, you would power up the blue wire. The yellow wire is not used. It's for different functionality because they do offer these lights with other features like a stop or turn or tail feature. But in my application, I am not using the yellow wire. Once you've given your epoxy enough time to dry on the cap there, you're just going to plug in your harness, tuck all your slack into that hole, line it up with that opening, and just push these plugs in like that until they're flush. You could put some epoxy on both sides of that cap if you wanted to, just to make sure if you don't want them to come in or out. I don't think that they're going to come off very easily, though. I've pulled on them a little bit, and they seem to be holding pretty tight. Here's a visual of what the cap looks like fully seated. You can see this is the side view where the light's going to be aiming out the driver's side. And then this is the view from the rear of the truck, what it's going to look like. Here's the view as well for the passenger side. So you can see that's the light's going to be aiming out underneath the truck. And then there's the view from the rear of the truck. I'm about 2 to 3 feet away from the truck. And there is the light right there if you can see it in that end cap. Same for the passenger side. I'm about 2 or 3 feet away from the truck. There is the light right here. I have a 7.3 Godzilla on this truck, but I think the diesel exhaust is almost coming out in the same area. So it's not going to interfere with that. And I'm not tucked up under. It's definitely low enough for the light to travel out from underneath the truck. Here's the daytime view with the pod light on. I do have upfitter switch number 2 on, so it turns this light on as well. So I've got the 6-inch bar that's going to aim to the back, and I've got the SSC1 pod that's going to aim to the side. And I did get these in the flood pattern, so they're going to send that flood pattern out on this side. I'm going to get some nighttime shots for you so you can see how much light this puts out to the side of the truck. Here's the side shot about 2 to 3 feet away from the truck, just below the bumper line there. You can see what it looks like during the daytime. Here's the nighttime view of the side pod lights. I'm about 6 feet away from the truck. I'm going to do the walk around the back. And keep in mind, I do have the reverse lights on. These are the 6-inch bars in the back right here by Diode Dynamics. But I'm going to block those off, do a couple of shots so you can see what just the pod lights are doing. So I'll come over here to the passenger side. And if you can see, that's just a single SSC1 pod with a flood pattern. And I'm going to do some shots off to the side so you can see how much light that thing's putting out. But I've blocked off the 6-inch bars with a piece of cardboard, and there may be still a little bit of light splash because I can't turn those off separately from these side lights. But just to show you, this is the side hitch pod right here. This is driver's side. And then this one here is on the passenger side. So I do have the 6-inch bars blocked with cardboard. So just to show you, there is the light that just the side pod is putting out. Let me back away from the truck there for a little bit so you can see a little bit better light. And I'm going to cover my hand over that pod so you can see the difference with the pod and without the pod. So let's just aim you a little bit this way. So now you can see the light. You can see those bushes just a little bit. Now I'm going to put my hand over that so you can kind of see some of that light right there too is a little bit of the 6-inch pod since I can't turn these off all the way. But I think you can tell that they certainly make a huge difference. And then looking at the passenger side there, most of that light is just that pod that's mounted in the side of the hitch there. And I'll put my hand on that one for you as well, so you'll be able to tell how much it's covering there. So you see I got this piece of cardboard over the 6, so we'll cover over that. And then I'll back away from the truck this way a little bit for you. So those are just the two side pods. And like I said, the 6-inch bars are blocked off by cardboard underneath there. So some of that splash just underneath the bumper could be some from the 6-inch bars. But those two pod lights are definitely putting out a lot of light there. I'm about 25 feet away from the back of the truck now, and you could definitely see all this light splash from the two lights on the sides. I've got those 6-inch bars blocked off with cardboard, but I'll do another shot with the 6-inch bars and the side lights on as well. These are the Pro versions with the flood lens inside there, so that's what I wanted, and that's the type of the light that I wanted coming out the rear of the truck. I'm on the driver's side, standing about 3 feet to 4 feet away from the driver's side headlight. This is the look that you're going to get with just the side pod mounted in that location. Let me walk over here to the passenger side so you can see that. So same distance, I'm about 3 to 4 feet away from that passenger side headlight now, and that is only the pod light on right here. On the driver's side now, with the 6-inch bar uncovered, and this is the pod light aiming this direction, and you can see a little bit of that dark line. That is the projection of the 6-inch bar. That is also a flood pattern, and this pod light is a flood pattern. I'll walk over to the passenger side, show you the same. So again, same scenario there, 6-inch bar is uncovered. This is the pod light aiming this direction. And then you can see a little bit of that dark line there is where the two beams intersect and have a very small blind spot, I would say, for the rear. I'm about 25 feet from the rear of the truck. You can see the pod lights there to the sides, and then the 6-inch bars are flooding in this area right here. That same line, you see it right here a little bit, which is just a little bit of a dark spot there, not much at all. And I think the position of the pod lights with the 6-inch bars gives me the most optimal light, especially when I'm putting this thing in reverse or when I turn on upfitter switch number 2. This is a little bit of review of what's also coming up. I've already reviewed these SSC1 pods I put in the front fog light area, but I've got these 12-inch bars coming up right there on the side. That's also Diode Dynamics. All my extra lighting on this truck is all by Diode Dynamics. Just to kind of show you with this side light, the ones I already did here on the front and the ones now added on the rear, that I don't really have a blind spot around this truck at all. So I'll be coming up with that review soon, so also stay tuned and stick around for that one. But I want to show you that look too here from the back while we're coming up. There's where I've got my 12-inch bars right now. Those are in a wide pattern, but I'm going to be doing a separate review on how I installed that. So you can see right there, there's how much light all of that's putting out. Just a quick walk too. These are 6-inch bars in a flood. These are pod lights in the Pro version underneath here. That's in a flood as well. This is in a wide pattern. These are 12-inch. Then I've got the additional pods right here. That is in a wide pattern right there. And then I've got the 18-inch bar, and that's in their combo, which is a flood in 2 spots. That completes my install and review of these SSC1 pod lights by Diode Dynamics I installed on the side of the hitch. Hope this information was useful or helpful for you. And if it was, please subscribe and share. And that's to the point.